Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 1 of Rejection Therapy, a podcast broadly, I think, about yo-yoing. I'm Chris.
And I'm JD, but not that JD.
A different boomer JD.
A different, less muscular, and I have no world champion titles under my belt. JD.
Still with a flown style and someone who honestly has been inspiring me as of late, though. So to kind of start off and jump right into the meat of it, actually, we're both broadcasting here from the University of Texas and hopefully not getting kicked out of one of their study rooms.
That's right. Yeah, we're at the PCL. Shout out to UT Austin.
But really, what this all kind of stemmed from was us meeting up for the first time in person and then really vibing with each other's styles and then deciding, hey, you know, what's missing right now? A yo-yo podcast. And of course, there's other resources on the internet. I've been talking to JD a lot about Kill Your Yo-Yo. That was one of my inspirations for wanting to start up a podcast. And there's also the goods with Tyler Severance. But we thought there is a gap in the market for two, I guess now yo-yo old heads, although I think a lot of people called me a mid-head, if that's even a thing, kind of catching up with what yo-yoing is doing right now and reacting live to our adjustment phase in a way. And I think another impetus coming along with the fact that we started meeting up live is that we also met up with Owen from Wicked Yo-Yos, and from his reaction to some of our tricks, as well as my reaction to his tricks, and I'm sure your reaction to his tricks as well, we thought, okay, there's definitely a gap here to be bridged, and what better way to do it than talk therapy?
Yeah, I think we both bring some interesting perspectives too, and very different perspectives. Me being a very old school player, circa 2004, 2005, and you being kind of, did you say mid school earlier? Is that what you consider yourself?
Ahmad Charisma, I think, started yo-yoing a little bit before me, and he calls himself mid school. I think that maybe it's just by virtue of bias, as in I came in when I perceived there to be a boom in yo-yoing in the early to mid 2010s. Therefore, I consider myself to also be mid school, where there was, of course, you know, the rise of 1A and then unresponsive play and that first big yo-yo boom that I think definitionally created the yo-yo boomers as we know them. But following that, I do think that like once you move into about 2010, like post Yuki Spencer at Worlds kind of, there came another, what at the time was considered the new school, right?
Yeah.
Like Janos winning, I think, was kind of the big pivot away from those historic names. Hiroyuki Suzuki, I think, was 2012. And I view myself in line with that new wave that came in. Zach Gormley in 2015 was kind of the freestyle that I would consider to be the most representative of what I wanted to do and what I thought was peak yo-yoing at the time, if that is at all a reference point.
It's funny for me to hear you say that, because for me, Yuki Spencer was my favorite player. The whole time I was learning how to yo-yo and learning tricks and developing my style. He was my favorite. So, but I think you told me the other day that's kind of a boomer sentiment to have, where it's like clinging on to the nostalgia and of Yuki's iconic freestyles and saying like, oh, this is the greatest ever done. You're kind of saying like that's a very boomer mentality to have. Like we've come a long way from that, I think is what you were kind of saying.
It's affectionate.
And that's no slight to Yuki, obviously, but it's just, his last freestyle Worlds was what?
Oh, God.
It was a long time ago. I mean, I know 2009, was that the first place, right?
I thought 07 was the first
place?
place.
With the 888 or no?
I thought 07 was.
Oh, wait, I think you're right. 07.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the last. Was that his final Worlds? I actually don't know that.
I think it was the final one he won, but I don't know if
that was the final one he entered.
Yeah, I think he probably entered a few after that. I could have sworn that I saw him like all linked up and a little bit older, getting, somewhere around like 8th, 9th place at a later contest.
You might be right. So I'm a fake fan because I don't actually know that. But all the same. I mean, those freestyles are just cemented in my memory as core memories. I love them.
Well, I wouldn't even call you a fake fan. You're just a fan that went into a coma basically from 2010 to now in regards to the competitive scene and broadly almost the evolution of yo-yoing.
I did. I've very much for the past 15 years, 10 to 15 years now, I've very much kind of had one foot in, one foot out, to where there has always been a yo-yo somewhere in my room or somewhere on my desk, but I wasn't necessarily throwing every single day, or wasn't, for example, like I told you, I've never actually had any friends to yo-yo with in person in my life ever. And I started in 2004. It wasn't until we met up recently. It was really cool to meet up with you and Owen, and we all shared tricks, and I took some stuff home that you guys showed me and learned it. And that's also a really beautiful thing about being able to have people to throw with in person, because I've never had that. It's always just been check out what everyone's doing online, watch the videos, watch the freestyles, and, just be in awe of what my favorite players are doing and try to cop some stuff from them and, develop my own stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, in terms of the way that your style has grown and matured with you from that time where you were more involved to now, I think it has just refined itself a lot, probably because you weren't taking as much of the evolution of where yo-yoing was. You were kind of focusing on the things that felt good that you had learned at the time, then built from there.
Yeah, my growth was stunted.
You say that, but I think that you talked about it before as a peek behind the scenes. This is not our first time recording this first episode, but you had mentioned in a previous one that limitation, either in terms of the yo-yos that you were using or in terms of where you were at in your learning cycle, definitely impacted your overall play style and what you prefer doing. And to me, I think, because I come from a similar place, but I think in a way, like I had a lot more deficiencies in my learning than you did. And we'll get into how exactly that is the case here in a little bit. But what I'm trying to get at is that I think that, yeah, of course you could be jamming harder tricks now if you had continued to really practice and force yourself to learn the new thing, the harder things that were being produced. But to me, you were someone who blew my mind when I saw your trick set. And I just thought, how is this guy not online at all? How is this guy not one of those people that occasionally will like pop up in videos and everybody's in the comments saying, this is what yo-yoing should look like. I miss these days because you have such a sick style, dude.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always been for the enjoyment. I think that's, what it's really about. Like I've always just, like you said, wanted to learn tricks that I thought looked cool or felt fun to do. And that's why I don't really have a repertoire of arm tricks or, like when I saw Owen doing some of those combos, very modern looking combos where like in these zones.
Yeah.
And for the listeners, I'm kind of positioning as if I'm throwing like trapeze like over my shoulder and I'm looking at the sky. Like those kind of things maybe some people were doing that back then when I was yo-yoing a lot, but that's pretty modern to me. Like those I think you referred to as zoning, which I told you yesterday is a term I hadn't heard until you told it to me. I didn't know what that meant, but now I know. But I don't have any of that repertoire. I mean, it's funny because now talking with you and talking with Owen and starting to get a little more involved in yo-yoing again, I almost kind of want to now. Like I'm starting to feel that kind of like, okay, maybe these kind of tricks are cool. Like maybe, so I think, I don't know. Now I'm kind of feeling this inspiration, maybe kind of expand my bag a little bit. And, learn some of these modern things people are doing.
And so I'll be honest, as an ulterior motive for making this podcast, right? I kind of have that researcher's mentality of, wow, it's very rare that you see a feral child of the yo-yoing world or someone who has been away for so long and then is coming back. So almost documenting the culture shock and documenting your development from here on out is something that I really want to experience alongside you.
So I'm your little experiment is what you're saying. Is that what this is?
Yeah, well, partially it's also like kinship, right? Because I myself had a period where I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or entirely out of yo-yoing, especially when I was in college and going into grad school and stuff like that. And I think I've lived the culture shock back in 2023, coming back post-pandemic and seeing where yo-yoing was at.
So how did you come into yo-yos? Did you come from butterfly knives? Is that how you said you got into yo-yos?
Yeah, I was looking for a skill toy that I could actually do as I grew up and wanted to practice in public a little bit more and really fill in the gaps in my life to where I think a skill toy could shine. But obviously with the balisong, it's a lot different. You can't exactly whip that thing out in public when you're in line waiting for groceries or something like that. But I was looking at different options and my dad bought me this Yomega gift pack. It had a Maverick and a Raider. And
is that the small metal?
Really, I
have one of those.
I love those. They're actually so nice. I mean, it's a fun little, not super stable, not super powerful throw, but it is fun. And I kind of regret dinging mine up the degree to which I did because it's this little gem of a yo-yo.
Did you set it up?
No. So this was the thing when I first started, because my dad had introduced me to it, but he himself was someone who didn't have any knowledge of yo-yoing. And I also did not, for whatever reason at the time, had the instinct of, I should Google this and see what's happening online. I had just started playing with those yo-yos and learning the basics and getting the feel of throwing and catching, et cetera, et cetera. And then heard on the edges of either doing a Google for something else, or just looking at my specific yo-yo and thinking, hey, I can only do certain tricks on only a Maverick. So I look up Omega Maverick yo-yo tricks or something like that. I would get, hints at stuff like binding or stuff like trapeze or string tricks, but I didn't then try to search those out for whatever reason. Frankly, I'm trying to retroactively look at where the heck my brain was, because I was trying to just bind and do trapeze and stuff with absolutely zero guidance, and I didn't really know what's wrong with my Maverick. Why does it come back when I tug on it if this is supposed to be an unresponsive throw? And I don't even think it was. I think you would have to swap the axles and everything to actually set it up to be unresponsive. But basically, I was trying to bind, catch, all those kinds of things on a responsive yo-yo for so long, and it took me a ton of time before I eventually had the switch of my brain flip, and I went all the way from throwing these Omegas all the way to just straight up buying a Borealis as my first yo-yo, because one of the first things that I had really saw was that Zach freestyle, and from there I just was like, hey, gotta have what he's having, right?
Yeah, and now your collection is ridiculous.
Oh god, yeah.
I've seen it. This guy walked into an Amy's Ice Cream here in Austin, Texas for a meetup with me and Owen, and he walks in with this giant board of like 50 or over 50.
God, it's got to be like 54 yo-yos,
like
something
54
like that.
On this big board. He walks in. It was a sight to behold. I was like, oh my gosh, this collection is crazy. He's like, yeah, that's the first one. Let me get the second one. So he goes back to his car and retrieves the second giant board with 50 more odd yo-yos. And I've never seen a collection like that in person. It was amazing. I mean, they're pretty much all like high end, like competition level medals, pretty much all of them, right?
Yeah,
Most
at this point, I've shifted into that realm where I'm selling out of Magic cards, buying into whatever yo-yos I want. It's my first time kind of having one of those jobs where I realize, I have this excess income for me to use.
You got a little to play with, yeah.
Yeah, I got something to play with, and so I'm not going to say I'm spending it responsibly, but certainly my leisure budget is going mostly towards yo-yos right now, because yo-yos have taken up more and more of my life as of late.
I mean, it's an investment. We operate in a niche world, right? It's a niche hobby still, but like if you've got an original Anti-Yo and it's in mint condition, how much you think you're going to fetch for that if you put it on eBay now in 2026? You know what I mean? So it's an investment. Definitely some of those you really appreciate in value, especially if you take care of them. So
I appreciate you coping on my behalf, JD.
I see it. I'm saying how I see it. I mean, I've seen Anti-Yo pop up a few times on eBay. I don't think they last long, and they go for pretty steep prices. So.
I do wonder if we're past the era where this is the case, though, because even latter era CLYWs, and you have like a Markmont not Markmont, what is it, the Woolly Markmont, I think, something like that. You have one of those like early throws from CLYW that was done in limited numbers, or each run had like high variability between them, so people are like, I specifically want the 68 gram Chief and stuff like that. That's where the real money is. But now with growing consistency, just growing manufacturing and things of that nature, I don't know if the appreciation is going to be there even for like defunct brands. Like, will SF yo-yos ever become super expensive? I don't know. Like even Radical C stuff, and Radical C is my baby, my favorite company that no longer exists. They just don't really seem to pop up much. But when they do pop up, it isn't like there's a ton of demand there, or maybe it's just the case that the norms of the market are such that they still are going for maybe retail value at the most. But no, I just picked up Radical C's in 2.6 tempo, and I got that thing for like $40. It was a $100 yo-yo, I think, when it came out. And for me, I was super excited because that's a throw that I've been searching for a while, because one just doesn't hit the market all that often. But I guess I'm the only person clamoring in that incredibly narrow realm for a very obscure yo-yo. Yeah.
Well, it's hard to gauge. I mean, it's always hard to gauge with things like yo-yos, or even I'll liken it to music gear, like guitars and pedals and things like that. I mean, when you're talking about supply and demand with something that's manufactured in such limited numbers, right? Because a lot of times, I look at a lot of used, for the musicians out there, reverb.com, as I'm sure you also go on Reverb and look at stuff. I look at stuff on Reverb all the time. And, sometimes you might find something that you're aware of and that you have an interest in, but there aren't that many of them left, or there aren't that many of them for sale, like a really old or obscure guitar pedal. And maybe it was like one person and they're trying to sell it for $500. Is it worth $500? It's like, who's to really say, right? If you're the only person selling one, you know, and you've had it listed for maybe 6 months and no one's bought it, it's like, what is it really worth? You know what I mean? Versus like what it retailed for back in like the 70s or 80s. So it's the same thing with yo-yos. I think it's hard to gauge because if there's only one person listing like an Anti-Yo Babezilla, right? For like 3 years, only one person tries to sell one. It's like, what is it really worth? You know what I mean?
No, that's totally fair. I do think that there are probably going to be some quote unquote modern throws that to a degree will appreciate in value. I think ART or Art, I actually never figured out how to pronounce their name, and nor do I really care to pronounce their name correctly. But I know that there's stuff like I've seen Grails go for like $200 on BST and stuff. But for the most part, I do think that we're moving into a realm of yo-yoing where things just are not as much of an investor's market as early yo-yoing coincidentally ended up being. But we'll see if I'm proven wrong. You know, like I'm hoping to be in yo-yoing for the foreseeable future. We'll see what happens in 10 years, right?
I mean, personally, Anti-Yo, like I was just mentioning, I think they're not great. They're pieces of junk. And if you have any, I think you should sell them to me for, you know, like I'll buy it from you for like $30 or $40.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, what is the point of throwing a Woolly Markmont when you can go buy Brandon Vu's Deviant 6 or whatever, Deviant or Outlier 6? I don't remember his naming scheme, but which is going to be twice as wide and therefore twice as performant, because that's how that works in the modern day, JD.
So I know this Brandon Vu individual. I've seen some of his videos online, but I don't know anything about his yo-yos. That you said he's making yo-yos. Do you have any of them? Have you thrown them?
I have a Galactus because I was thinking to myself, I just got to see what the ultra wide trend that we're currently in is all about.
It's an ultra wide.
Yeah. So actually, to kind of get you up to speed, and anyone listening who may be in the same hyperbolic time chamber that JD was in, right? Like, for me, I was just shocked by how wide yo-yos had gotten when I got back into this.
I'm still shocked.
Yeah.
I told Owen the other day, I was like, that's a mini Diablo.
Yeah. For reference, Owen is dropping the Snow Angel soon, one of his yo-yos from Wicked Yo-Yos, and it's, 52 or 53 millimeters wide, something like that.
It's a mini Diablo, but it is really fun. I threw it and I did like it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a great mono metal. I actually really want to do one for 5A, but apparently like 5A accelerationism is its own crazy thing. I think it's called the Balam by C3 maybe. It's 66 millimeters wide. And wow. I guess it actually makes a lot of sense for 5A where you want to do those string catches, and it isn't about going through tech, right? It's about who can hit bee stings at really weird angles and be performant in that way.
Yeah.
So ultra wides make sense there, but even for 1A, right? Like we're hitting 60 millimeters for Brandon Vu's stuff. And I think that a lot of it's a marketing gimmick, right? I do not think that anything needs to be 60 millimeters wide. And Owen was saying that the Outlier 6, I think the newest one that's a bimetal, is too much. And he thinks it just plays like garbage. But I have a Galactus, which is the kind of predecessor to the modern wave of 60 millimeters that Offset, which is Brandon Vu's company, is doing. And it's like, it's fine. It's so big. It's the first yo-yo that really makes me think, God, I really cannot do tech with this. And this is coming from someone whose favorite yo-yo right now is one of these Zoomer throws. It's a Savage 55 by Yo-Yo Recreation. And as its name says, it's 55 millimeters wide, which is really pushing up there. But I still feel comfortable at that size. But yeah, the Galactus feels like a cylinder on a string. But for me, really, it's not the kind of like peak of the market for Brandon Vu stuff. So the Outlier, the Zenon Prime, and I don't know, unfortunately, what the third one is, but those yo-yos aren't really kind of what gets me talking about Brandon Vu. For me, it's kind of like looking at his like whole product line, and we're going to be diverging here really quick because I know you started asking how are his yo-yos. The answer is like they're fine. They're a bit gimmicky, but for me, I will get on my soapbox here for a little bit and do first hot take of the episode, which is that I think we are doing a disservice to new yo-yoers by having the current market set up for Brandon Vu's stuff to be like, you begin on, I think it's called the Ascent, which is this crappy plastic throw. And then you go to a slightly nicer plastic throw in the form of, it's this like finger spin yo-yo. I forgot exactly what it's called, but it's kind of like what the Skyba was, if you were around for that. No, that was after your time. Jeez. But anyway, Jeffrey Pang of Luftwerk designed the Skyba, which was the first like finger spin dimple yo-yo, which made DNA really easy. And then basically Brandon Vu collaborated with Jeffrey Pang to make a new version of that's injected, molded. And then they also have a metal version with like a Delrin insert. That was actually a cool throw. But this is to say, back on topic, you graduate from one yo-yo to the next yo-yo to the next yo-yo, and then you get a competition yo-yo. And I just think this is a pyramid scheme, frankly.
Pyramid scheme.
Yeah, it's like just buy a mid-grade throw.
A yo-yo pyramid scheme.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. It's a yo-yo pyramid scheme. Just buy a mid-grade throw or a cheap metal throw and be done with it for the point at which you are learning yo-yoing in its fundamental way, and then make a decision. You don't have to stay within like the vertical integration of Offset as a company. You could go outside of Brandon Vu and do whatever else. So if you buy an Ascent, right? If you buy like his plastic yo-yo, I would not say go to another plastic throw or even go up the chain of Brandon Vu stuff. Go to a different company. My recommendation is the Magic Yo-Yo V12, and I have several reasons why. And this is kind of getting to the shilliest section that I hope we ever do, but I promise you I'm not sponsored by Magic Yo-Yo. I don't even know if they sponsor anyone. I guess I think Dylan Kowalski had like a signature with them. I don't know. This is getting off topic again, but
they're a Chinese-based company, right?
Yeah, they're a Chinese company. They were coming out with like really cheap throws for a while, and there was this guy who I think was also like an MMA coach or something. Interesting fella. He had some good videos and good reviews, but his name was Dylan Kowalski on YouTube, and he I think got like a signature with Magic Yo-Yo because he kept reviewing like every Magic Yo-Yo that came out.
So if we review enough Magic Yo-Yo, do you think we can pick up a sponsorship?
Maybe. I am about to give a blaring endorsement of the Magic Yo-Yo V12. So
I'll endorse anyone that wants to send us yo-yos to review.
Absolutely. But, you know, not to talk about the others right now, to talk about our King's Magic Yo-Yo.
Right.
If you have a plastic yo-yo and you're thinking, oh gosh, this isn't super stable, it's kind of hard for me to stand there and like look at the anatomy of a trick if the yo-yo is still spinning because it doesn't have too much power, go buy a Magic Yo-Yo V12 and then do not buy another yo-yo until you fall in love with yo-yoing and you realize I'm buying yo-yos not for the performance but for different experiences. And my argument is that the Magic Yo-Yo V12 is perfect for this because it's almost 50 millimeters wide, so you don't get stuck in the grass is greener mentality of thinking, oh, I should really get an ultra wide yo-yo because I'm struggling to hit the string. One, just get good. You will be able to hit a string on even super narrow yo-yos after a while. I've been playing with like a modded Raider, just like an unresponsive Raider, and it's been so fun, by the way.
That's the last thing I expected you to ever say.
Yeah, I just coincidentally found like one of my like old Raiders that I had from when I was first starting, and the response area has been worn down enough to where it doesn't come back up if you tug on it almost at all.
Which is usually something that Raider users find undesirable because you probably have it for looping.
Yeah,
most
exactly.
people, yeah.
Yeah, but whatever's happened to it, it has made it probably the most fun, not even slimline, but like imperial shaped yo-yo I've ever had to just do string tricks on.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah.
Those things have been around since the 90s, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the only thing keeping Yo-Mega any relevance is that some people still play on Raiders and Fireballs and stuff, I think.
Yo-Mega needs because this is another tangent, but some of the medals that Duncan's put out in recent years, to me, that I've thrown, outplay a lot of the yo-yos. No offense to your collection. Your collection is grand. But yeah, you've handed me the Duncan, what was it, the Windrunner?
Yeah, Windrunner.
That yo-yo, for that price point, what'd you say, it was like $40-something?
No, less than that. You get it for 30.
30-something? That's absolutely, in my opinion, the best medal at that price range. It's incredible.
Yeah. And this is to say, there's a lot of good stuff that exists in the middle of the market for new players that doesn't require you to go into like the offset pyramid.
Yeah, and Yo-Mega is also a very, it's such a legacy company, just like Duncan. Although obviously Duncan's ancient, but what I was saying is that Yo-Mega needs to have like a line of medals come out like that. They're just super great at like a super low price, and I think like Yo-Mega would take off again.
Well, I think that Yo-Mega always had like some drama regarding the World Yo-Yo Contest, and I'm not exactly sure, but it kind of feels like they are the company that you can go buy at Target or Walmart, just like Duncan is.
They have been for a while, yeah.
Duncan does have respect in like the thrower community, as it were, but Yo-Mega is not like that at all. And they do have medals. They do have like $45, $50 medals. And I've heard they're just garbage. Just
really?
Truly terrible yo-yos.
God, man. It was so funny. I don't know. See, a lot of younger throwers too. I don't know if they'll. I mean, there's no way they would know this, but Yo-Yo Factory, I think everyone accepts is kind of one of the quote unquote main companies that exists now. But when I was coming up, like, I think Yo-Yo Factory existed. I don't even know if they're really manufacturing yo-yos. Like the Fast 201 or whatever came out, and then that existed. You could find it at Walmart, but people weren't. They didn't have any other They didn't have any competition level yo-yos. Fast 401k come out, and then they started to kind of go towards, okay, now they're kind of starting to cook. And then the 888 came out, and I think that's kind of what sparked, because the Yo-Yo Factory, to my knowledge, had some medals that came out like in the 90s or early 2000s. What was it, like original like Grind Machine or Grind Monster?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen like pictures of those really old Yo-Yo Factory medals, but yeah. And they kind of rebranded those yo-yos, or they remade them, I think, and they look different now. But they used to be metal yo-yos back in the day. Interesting. Yeah. See, you even knew that. But,
yeah, and this is beyond my time, and so this might actually be something that I would love a little bit more.
Because Grind Machine now I think is a plastic.
Yeah, there's like the Turbo Grind Machine or something like that. I'm pretty sure those are plastics.
Yeah, that original name, Grind Machine, I do think it was like a Yo-Yo Factory metal, like way back in the day. But all this to say, it's kind of cool that I watched like a company like Yo-Yo Factory kind of like revive itself, and then suddenly like everybody's using their yo-yos, and then people are competing with their yo-yos, and I think to me it kind of all started with the when they put out the 401k, the Fast 401k. That is really kind of, because like I said, right after that, the 888. Yuki uses the 888, wins competition. It's like everyone wanted one. They were super cool. Hub stack. Now we're going horizontal with it. It was a revelation. It was awesome.
For me, this is all before my time, and therefore I've collapsed the early competitive era of 1A into people are using modded freehands, then people are using yo-yo jams, then people are using the 888, and then the drop near comes. That's like my stereotyped timeline of yo-yoing before I really got into yo-yoing.
Yeah. Oh man, I saw. If you haven't seen it, if you're a yo-yoer and you're like me and you love watching nostalgic old freestyles, you got to see. I'm sure you've seen it. That Mark Montgomery AP freestyle from way back in the day where he's beatboxing and throwing. And everyone's like, some comment was like, what is he using? Like, I don't even know what that is. It could be like a throw monkey. And he commented in the comments, and he said, that's a modified, I'm going to hate myself now because I actually can't remember what it is. It's something with like Henry's like coral snake rims or something like that. Because people used to take those and like put them on different yo-yos, and you would mod different stuff. So yeah, he said something like, it was like a freehand body that was dyed, and then he added like Henry's coral snake rims or something like that. It was very interesting. So it's very interesting the stuff people were competing with back then, because there was kind of a very limited selection of competition level stuff to use. And that was before I guess he had DV8 and had collaboration with Buzz On and stuff like that. That's another company. I don't even think you knew about that. Buzz On?
No.
That goes way back. And they were a Texas company too. They were based in Texas. But that's where the DV888, for those who don't know, that's where that comes from. There's a company called Buzz On that was, I believe, was started by a guy in Texas named Dave Bazan. So you see the name similarly.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, yeah.
And they sponsored Mark Montgomery and a bunch of other great players. And I think that was his signature. It was called the DV8. And it was probably the widest yo-yo that existed for a long time. It was ultra wide, very small diameter. I had one at one point. I had a white one. They were really fun to play with, and it was perfect for Mark's style because he was doing this really technical chopstick style that, to this day, I don't think anyone's ever really played with that style, and it was perfect for that. So, yeah, if you're curious, I don't know if you can find much about them now on the internet, but look up Buzz On Yo-Yos, and if you're curious, and see what you can find.
There's a lot of those companies that have just kind of been lost to the sands of time. And that's kind of what I mean in terms of, I do feel that era-wise, in regards to the yo-yo market and yo-yo production, we are kind of out of the realm of having those chase yo-yos in a way, and having that real play in the market, because to me, people have to do true archaeological resource and sociological research in order to get to the point where we're confident about like the runs of the chief. Shout out to Gingy if you ever have seen his videos online. He does a great documentary on, I believe he's done the peak, the chief, and then the drop near. And to the kind of credit of what he's doing, he's having to, go through old yo-yo expert forums, use the Wayback Machine, and even then just ask people in the community to find any amount of info on a lot of this stuff. And nowadays, you'll be able to find the Instagram post for any run, any drop, any yo-yo. And therefore, I don't think we're going to be losing companies like Buzz-On in much the same way. Like all of SF stuff will be out there forever. We will know how many of each run and how many of each colorway and when they were dropped and everything until the end of history. And that I think is great, but I think it also speaks to almost kind of like this mystique being lost in the realm of yo-yoing.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, because there is kind of a mystique to companies like that, especially Buzz-On. That kind of had is. I told you they kind of had I guess gangster kind of image. All I remember is if you went on their website and you looked at the player bios, one of the questions was like, "What's your favorite gangster movie?" So as a kid, I was like, "Oh, this is very like edgy company." I thought it was pretty cool. I don't know if there really are companies like that now. You would know.
Edgy companies?
Kind of like an edgy yo-yo company. With
ART is the edgy company.
ART is the edgy company.
I mean, they had like the school shooter sticker and stuff like that. Oh. And, they called their most recent yo-yo the Spin Cell. So I feel like that might be edgy in a way that is less tasteful, shall we say.
Yeah. And you and I had discussion kind of about that one time where, what is your take on having an edgy company in the yo-yo world? And I think you said something like, you don't know if it's appropriate because, look, at the end of the day, we're all so passionate about what we do, but it is a children's toy. That's what, at the end of the day that we're playing with. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of kids that yo-yo and that, it's like you're saying as adults, we have responsibility to, I guess kind of filter the certain things that we're putting in front of them and making them aware of. And what's your take on that?
I'm going to append my statement with a few qualifiers. The first qualifier is that I work at a private school and I work with kids all day, and therefore my thoughts are shaped by the way that I see my kids get influenced by stuff, as well as by the standards that my school has set for the kids. And therefore I try to, in a lot of my life, be reflective of those standards just because I want those kids to be able to look at me as a positive influence, as an example. And simultaneously on top of that, I also do think that there is a very clear distinction between something being made for adults and then something being like distasteful, right? And I do think that some of the ART controversy goes into the realm of just being distasteful and being, I don't want to say cancelable, but of the kind of action that would make me not want to associate with that company, if that makes sense. And honestly, I don't even know the whole story behind all the stuff that they've done. I just know that to some throwers in the community that have been pretty vocal about it, they have kind of put themselves into the realm of just not being great to like interact with. I think that at least some people on the team are like big fans of like Andrew Tate and people of that nature. And for me, that isn't adult, right? That is just almost in a way immature. It's just edgy for being edgy's sake. And I really don't want to feed into that. But yeah, to get to my point, I do think, and maybe this is a spicy take, that there is some amount of paternalism and burden placed upon the older members of the yo-yo community to keep it open for young players and to not immediately impact them in a negative way by stepping into the realm of yo-yoing. I don't necessarily mean that we have to have all places be kids friendly, but I do think as an example of a standard I like, you can have swearing in a freestyle song. I think that should just be kind of a universal sentiment. One, because it doesn't take a whole lot to clean up a song if you do want to use a song that has vulgarity in it. And two, I want it to be so that a kid can walk into any freestyle going on at any contest and think to themselves, that's really cool, and not have their parents say, oh, you can't be in here, this is for adults, because they just said a bad word over the PA. And so I try to operate in other realms of yo-yoing with much that same standard. So I've said it before, but my favorite tricks are suicides, but I can't call them suicides at school. And
you love suicides, don't you?
I love suicides.
I love suicides too, which is a crazy statement to overhear someone say, but in our world, it makes sense.
Yeah, it only makes sense in our world and maybe Live Leak, but speaking of places kids shouldn't go, right? But what I'm trying to get at the end of the day is that, for instance, when I'm teaching kids at school and kids are interested in yo-yoing, I don't want them to run home to their parents and be like, look, Mom, I learned a suicide. And then the parents are like, what the heck are they teaching?
I'm going to go suicide in my room later.
I'm going to go suicide in my room later. So I call them slack catches at school. And I know that's not a term that is used at all to describe what a suicide is, but by kind of breaking it down in that scientific way, or I guess, I don't want to erase history, but if there was a explicit name for a different trick, I would probably try to sidestep that a little bit. But at the same time, right, there are other tricks. I mean, Paul Escolar named so many of his tricks after like drug references and paraphernalia, if I remember correctly. I wouldn't want to harm a lot of that. And a lot of it's veiled enough that a kid entering into the yo-yo space isn't immediately going to think, oh yeah, that's about drugs. I'm going to do drugs now, or drugs are cool. So there's definitely like an even hand there. And I've gone to, I think Recess as a really good example of a company that does approachability right for kids while still having, in a lot of ways, an adult attitude about things. A lot of their iconography that they use is stuff that is adult in that they wouldn't really resonate with kids. I'm thinking a lot about the Better Off Alone line that they do with the X-Files-esque UFO caps on their PC Hypernovas that just came up. By the way, cop one of those. Recess is a fantastic company. Definitely support Tyler and all that stuff that he's been working on. But at the same time, so many people get into yo-yoing via the first base. And Tyler is a great communicator for yo-yoing. He goes to schools. He shows off yo-yoing to kids, teaches them the basics. All the while, I still think cultivating an image that is very much something that adults appreciate. And that's where I think we should kind of keep yo-yoing for the most part. If there was like a super edgy yo-yo company that was like not for kids at all, and I don't know, had blood and guts all over all of their boxes and all of their designs and everything like that, and all their yo-yos are named things like the Decapitator and whatnot.
I want to make that company. The first yo-yo we put out is going to be called the Gin and Tonic.
The Gin and Tonic?
That's going to be my first signature.
But you see, that's the thing. Even something called like the Gin and Tonic to me seems totally like something that a kid should access. That is different than calling a yo-yo the Spin Cell.
Sure, or the Decapitator or whatever you said.
Even the Decapitator, I think, is like silly enough that it would pass. Like, so when I talk about paternalism, and we've had this discussion before, I am not trying to be super restrictive, and I don't think that a good praxis is to be super restrictive. But I would just say, think about the kids in your community. Not a, oh, won't you ever think of the children kind of attitude, but rather just, hey, we want to keep the doors open for as many people as possible so that the Zoomers all crowd us out and we have to sit in our little corners and complain about how the meta doesn't respond to the kind of tricks we like to do.
Do you think there should be a midnight yo-yo contest where you have to be, like, you get carded and you can't enter unless you're 18?
I have thought for a while about just running an Austin yo-yo contest. I think it would be sick to start something up here. There's a lot of really cool stages, outdoor areas, as well as like indoor spots that I think could host a good contest. I mean, you as a musician know so many stages that anyone could use for a yo-yo contest.
Yeah, where are the Austin throwers? There's got to be more of us out there.
Yeah,
if you guys are in Austin, please hit us up. Let us know.
Yeah, you would say that, but I can't find anyone. I mean, that's how I met you. You were like literally the only person that I've been able to see interact with one another in the past like year on Yo-Yo Expert forums or Instagram or anything, dude.
Yeah, and it's funny because I haven't even gone back on Yo-Yo Expert forums. I think since I saw that post where it was either you or someone else was asking, like, is there anyone else in Austin like that wants to throw? Somehow I was Googling. I don't even remember what I was Googling, but somehow one of the top search results was that forum post. And so, yeah, and I hit you up and the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history for sure.
But we need more.
Yeah, we need more.
We need more throwers to throw with.
And even if we don't have throwers in Austin, my thought is we could get people from Houston. I know there's throwers in Houston. I know we could get
Texas
them from
is
San Antonio.
huge, man.
Yeah, and we could get them from Dallas. We're a good center spot of Texas, very literally speaking.
We're kind of trapped.
Yeah. That's the problem is like going out. God, we got to drive 3 hours to like et cetera in a little bit here in April. I know you're not touring anymore, by the way. So this is my official invite in front of everybody, all 20 people listening. You got to come to the contest.
Where is it?
It's in Dallas.
When?
April 11th, I think.
Oh, if I'm free, I would love to go.
Also, anyone listening, if you guys want to go too, we will hopefully be there.
Yeah, hopefully.
But to get back on topic, I've been thinking about doing an Austin contest, and I would love that Austin contest in my mind to have stuff like freestyles with vulgarity in it, or heck, even a different weighting for the artistic performance side of yo-yoing versus the clicks, or maybe don't have clicks at all, right? Like maybe just make it so that you get to do whatever you want.
Like a boomer division?
Like maybe a boomer division, or I'm thinking like Faye Webster Invitational, or I mean the Stargazing Night. Have you ever seen those?
No, what
It's
is
like
that?
yo-yo battles where two people are on stage to go back and forth, and it's just about audience participation.
Is it like
How much they
chess
like
boxing? Like they play chess and they box?
a little bit, except nobody's hitting each other with yo-yos. The most brutal knockout I saw though was I think Zach Gormley versus Polo in 2024, and this is something that happens like after Worlds basically. And Polo has been like pioneering these tricks where he's like unscrewing the
I've
yo-yo
seen
and
them,
playing with half of it, and he like does this trick where he does like a tower whip or something on half a yo-yo, and then walks around Zach Gormley, and Zach Gormley's standing there like, oh, what am I supposed to do, man?
Checkmate.
Yeah, but that is to say, having something like that, like a different forum for competition would be cool. But I do also want to put a little line in the sand here. This is not me saying that I don't appreciate modern competitive yo-yoing. I want to append that before we inevitably get into complaining about where modern competitive yo-yoing is at, because I know you started watching contests for the first time.
I went back last week and started watching all the freestyles from Worlds 2025. So we haven't even gotten to all that yet, and how I really don't understand. I don't understand the final results at all, and it's hard because if you look at the top 10, obviously in something like modern yo-yoing, everyone's great, everyone's amazing, right? But I don't understand judging clearly, because we'll save that for another podcast episode. But man, I think those results are just I don't agree. I don't agree with the final results of Worlds 2025. And I don't think a lot of other people do too. I mean, I was reading through some comments on some of those freestyles, like Jakob, for example, and I saw a lot of sentiments that kind of echoed mine, where it's like, really, that's what place this gets? Things like that.
I definitely need to see you explore that a little bit more. And I know that like also with Asia Pac going on right now, we got a lot of modern yo-yoing we're about to both wade through.
I was watching last night. I watched the 4A finals, and it was really cool. And I watched some of the 5A finals before. Unfortunately, their lag, it was just too much. I mean, their internet, they had some trouble. It turned into a slideshow real fast. But it really reminded me that 4A is hard and 5A is hard, especially in a competition setting. It's a lot of drops.
A lot of drops. Yeah,
everyone's dropping everything all the time. So yeah, and Tsubasa, I didn't know he was still competing.
There's a few people who also just kind of returned for AP,
because I thought that dude was competing since like the 90s or something, like early 2000s.
Dude, Hiroyuki Suzuki was competing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
I mean, Takeshi Matsuro's back, and you know that makes me happy as a clam.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Also, so right now, I have not seen, and I don't think 1A finals has occurred yet. That's going to be tonight for us here in the Western Hemisphere.
Correct.
But God, man, his semifinal and prelims routines are exactly what I wanted to see out of Takeshi. It is him with all the control and poise and tech that you'd ever desire, but now he's playing a little bit faster just because he's getting more density of tricks in, and it's beautiful. It's exactly what I want to see out of who I think is now my favorite yo-yoer of all time, and that's crazy coming from someone who loves Kaizizan, loves Riccardo Fraulini, a lot of these names that were from my era. Not necessarily that they started yo-yoing at the same time I did, but rather they were at the peak prominence at a time in which I was watching.
Right.
Because I still view like Kaizizan at 2014 Las Vegas Open and his win there being one of the best freestyles I've ever seen in my entire life. Riccardo Fraulini's Manatee debut video, just some of the most creative and mind-blowing yo-yoing I've ever seen. But I think that I'm becoming more boomer in that I'm just like, yeah, no, Takeshi's the GOAT. And then we get into the classic boomer debate of Yuki on one side with you and then Takeshi on my side.
Yes, but I mean, it's also funny because we're referring specifically to contest freestyles. Mm-hmm. And the last few years for me, especially, I mean, I've already told you this. I haven't, there's a lot of freestyles I haven't seen.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really, really not up to date with contest freestyles. And that's actually because I was such an intermittent thrower, very casual. When I saw some piece of yo-yo content or yo-yo video that really inspired me or really, I was like, yes, that's it. It's usually not a freestyle video. Mm-hmm. It's usually just a video, right? Like anytime, if I see anything Daniel Kim makes, mm-hmm. and to my knowledge, he's not really winning competitions, I don't think. I've seen some of his freestyles at competitions, but I much prefer just to watch his videos he puts out and just watch and the creativity and the style. And I'm like, that's it. That makes me want to go pick up my yo-yo and go through. If I watch Mir Kim place a first place freestyle, I think that's amazing. and I love it, but I don't want to go pick up my yo-yo and go throw it, if that makes sense. It doesn't inspire me in the same way.
No, I 100% get it, because I'm much the same way. And you will hear this mantra, listener, on a lot of what we're about to talk about, both on this podcast as well as all the future podcasts we're going to do. That's not what I want to do with a yo-yo, is my mantra on so much of the modern meta.
It's a good mantra to have.
But it's a good mantra to have. But in a way, I do think it is a little bit constricting. And this gets to something I've been exploring a lot recently, which is that in my desire to only do what I think feels good and to go towards that very boomer mindset that I think, honestly, to talk about ART one more time, Charles Haycock and a lot of those guys embodied when they first started ART, where it's like, I do things that feel good, I do things that look good, I do things that I want to do, and that is where my yo-yoing comes from. And competition is unfortunately pushing out the elements of yo-yoing that I enjoy. I think that for me, at the very least, that has kind of hurt a lot of my learning, because I'm left-handed, and this goes into this idea of determinism I want to talk about a lot, which is that physically based upon the space that you play in, the length of string that you have, who you are as a person, that's going to affect your tricks, affect your style, and affect what you like. In my time yo-yoing, I was too lazy to go like mirror videos. I hated doing that. And I also, at the time, when I was starting out, wasn't expending the effort necessary to like mirror videos in my head.
Because you're left-handed.
Yeah, exactly. And so as a lefty, I didn't learn a lot of fundamental aspects of yo-yoing, and I got very quickly into the elements of yo-yoing that I found enjoyable, most of which was very dense tech, a la Takeshi, and people who were pushing that even further via like the tech creators hashtag, which was a big thing for a while on Instagram. I really, really liked that very slow style where you're bouncing in between really tight mounts and things like that. But I never learned boingy boing. I never learned how to do Eli hops. And It's only now meeting you and seeing those things firsthand that I think to myself, God, I am missing a fundamental aspect of yo-yoing, or a way that a yo-yo interfaces with the string and interfaces with, hell, gravity, right? And from there, I think that I'm going back and filling those gaps in, but I'm trying to therefore be resistant to that mantra that I've crafted for myself. And I think so many other people that are from your generation or my generation, which, by the way, to the Zoomers, we are of the same generation. We're both old heads that do old tricks, right? But to us, I think that it's a good mantra to have on occasion, but I just want to fight the intuition to fully reject all modern stuff or things that at first don't feel good or look good to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like that you're touching upon something that I kind of think about frequently too. And my whole thing, my whole life has been like, if I don't like something, say it's like music, for example, or maybe like a food, if I don't like something off the bat, it actually might bring me towards that thing, because I become curious, and why don't I like that? Why do I have an aversion to this song or this genre, right? So I kind of want to go towards it. So yeah, so now you're kind of making me reflect on modern styles and tricks that I kind of stayed away from as well. And now I'm like, why don't I like that? Maybe I will like that. Maybe I should try to, practice some of this behind the neck stuff that I never put in my repertoire. But, so.
Yeah, to me, it's tough, right? Because I'm saying be conscientious about it, but I don't think you'll ever see me attempting to do a 5.0 hook. I think it's probably important for me to learn the mechanics of more difficult hooks. I would love to learn a 2.0, for instance, but I don't want to pursue it for its own sake. In the same way that I think I should learn the basics of modern horizontal play, something beyond like a skin the gerbil-esque combo, which is about the most I can do it horizontally. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm ever going to really want to implement it. I just think that it is good to have a wide basis of experience and knowledge of how yo-yo physically interacts with your environment and with the string, to then really sharpen the things that you like to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I'll never be the best, but I'll be the best in this chair.
Dude, you might be the best in Austin. Unironically, you and Owen are probably the best yo-yoers.
I'm just mimicking something I heard Jimi Hendrix say. Anyway.
But really, I got to get you out here, and we got to do a rejection therapy branded yo-yo video at some point, because people got to see the style you've been literally cooking for the past 20 years.
If we make a video, it should be me attempting to do 3A.
Oh, yeah.
Having never done 3A, and you attempting to do 4A.
Okay.
That should be our video.
Mm-hmm.
I would enjoy it. I don't know if anyone else would care to see that, but I would be entertained by it.
I think that we just got to play completely straight-faced, where we put it to really hard music and we film it and do shots exactly like people who are just ripping actually good tricks would.
Spider-Man costumes.
Exactly. Spider-Man costumes or black and white filter with like metal, except we're just whiffing basic elements. I think something like that would be good. Me failing to bind the yo-yo and you see me just run out of frame for like 20 seconds as I'm chasing the 4A thing around.
Or take a shot every time you like don't land a certain trick.
Oh God.
And we just get belligerently drunk like as we're like continue to film this video.
I think that probably we want to make a good impression on our first-time listeners and viewers.
That goes totally against what you were just saying about the responsibility we have as adults and the things, kind of yo-yo content we make.
Yeah. It's a thing where...
Has anyone done a yo-yo... remember we played Yo-Yo Horse with Owen? Has anyone done that before?
Well, I mean,
maybe I should cut this out. Someone's going to like steal our idea. I got some good ideas cooking here. We're kind of cooking.
I mean, it wasn't like the skill ladder back in the day, literally that. I thought like at contests, it would be like you have to do a trick on stage.
They don't do that anymore?
They might. I don't know. I haven't been to a contest since 2017.
I've never been to a contest, so I remember that was a thing. I remember hearing about that concept, but I never participated in it, obviously.
I mean, it makes sense, right? That would not be something that we look at. We don't say, wow, Bob Johnson's trick ladder video from 2005 Worlds, one of the best of all time, dude. We're going to look at the freestyles because that's where the innovation is showcased, right? But to try to get things on track, because God, we are going deep into our time right now, and we're really trying to keep these things to an hour. I am trying to do an obligatory, not tax write-off, but mental state write-off for the fact I have a way too large of a yo-yo collection as a mediocre thrower. And so therefore, we are going to try to close this out here and with most of our episodes with a yo-yo review. And I do want to start with a few qualifiers before I announce what yo-yo we're doing and what my take is on it, which is, one, I understand that the majority of like modern yo-yos are just essentially good throws. It has been a while since I've thrown anything that was made in the past, like even 10 years that I would consider fundamentally bad. There are fundamentally bad throws out there. There are throws that I never want to touch again, or throws that just give me an icky feeling while playing with them. But they're
usually made of plastic.
This is true. I mean, to be fair, the worst yo-yos that I've played with and that I remember playing with are not plastics. Maybe it's because my expectations are different with plastics. And so if a plastic yo-yo is bad, I'm like, it's a plastic, you know? But there's some metal throws out there that I just
really? Plus, we want different things out of different yo-yos. And I think we expect different things out of different yo-yos too. Like when I throw like a freehand one now, which I think they're freehand ones. I think that's the modern reproduction of the original freehand. Anyway, but when I throw that, I expect something different out of it than when I throw that C3 action that I have, for example. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm not disappointed when the freehand obviously is going to be able to do certain things,
Totally.
Even though I think they're kind of around the same price point. I think it's like $20 for each one.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, right? Like, I was getting my mind blown because I threw a Dark Magic 2 for the first time, and I literally traded Owen a ton of stuff for it, and plus some other throws, of course, but I was treating that Dark Magic 2 as if I was, making a deal for a relatively
that was a competition
yo-yo.
Level yo-yo back in the day. Yuki won Nats with that, I think.
It's so good, but it's so good for its time. It's so good in the framing of it. So holds up as a modern yo-yo, and I can imagine, therefore, back in the day, that thing was triple S tier. It's crazy how modern it feels as a high wall, somewhat narrow hybrid throw, but at the same time, on our list, you try to get things back to this discussion of how I'm ranking throws. The Dark Magic 2 would be like a C tier or lower throw, like a D tier throw, even though I am blown away by it just by virtue of how ridiculously good yo-yoing has pushed modern yo-yos to be.
C tier.
Yeah, C or D tier yo-yo, I think, man.
Does your scale start with C and go C, D, E, F, G? Is that how you...
No. C, I'm going to say middle of the pack, right? Like in between E and A tier, or F tier, I guess, if we're skipping E. I don't know. We're going to figure out once we get a really bad yo-yo on the podcast if we're doing E or F tier, but imagine
I've
for a
got
while it's good. Okay, it's probably going to be a while before we plumb the depths, but yeah, to start, we are reviewing the Empathy Copper.
It smells... like copper.
Yeah, it smells like you've been handling pennies all day.
Smell like copper now, and I think I taste it in my mouth.
So to start us off, I guess, and talk about the Empathy Copper a little bit, it is a signature throw of Kieran Cooper, who, if you haven't seen before, please go check him out. I think that, I know you're eventually going to get on your soapbox, JD, about throw with the correct length of string, but Kieran Cooper is known for just doing beautiful tricks with really short string, and to me, at the very least, I think he has one of the most distinctive styles in the modern game.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of his stuff. I'm a fan.
Yeah, definitely check him out. And so anything I say about the Copper, by the way, does not reflect upon Kieran Cooper. And I know that the Cooper Copper pun is the reason why they called it the Copper, but Kieran Cooper having his name be so close to Copper is a little bit confusing.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp comes to mind, the football player. Anyway.
And I think this is his fourth signature or something along those lines, because we had his time on SF where he had the Cadence ES, and then now with Empathy, he had the Apathy, and then the Copper. Empathy, Apathy, Cooper, Copper.
These names are so emotional. Empathy, Apathy. Is that where yo-yoing's gone nowadays?
Empathy, Apathy. Yeah. I mean, the problem is that like all the cool names for cool things have already been taken, right? Like One Drop called a yo-yo the Countach a long time ago. And so now we have to go for like abstract concepts. Yeah.
I want one of those.
Yeah, I know.
Is that the one that has a cool car engraving on it?
I don't know if it has car engraving on it, actually.
One of them did, I think.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, and I want it.
I mean, people say that the Countach is just a banger one-drop yo-yo.
Nice.
Like, one of the best side effects yo-yos that they've made, but I don't know. I haven't had the chance to play with one. To get on track, though, with the Copper from Empathy from Kieran Cooper, I'm in like two minds about it, because to start, I am a huge fan of copper as a material. I legitimately have like a chunk of copper in my house because I like how it looks. We were at like a semi-precious gem store, my partner and and I had to buy something, I guess, so I didn't feel out of place with all the crystal people. So I just got a big chunk of copper. It was nice. I have it stuck on top of a plant right now.
This thing is a chunk of copper.
Yeah, exactly. So now I have another statement piece with a bunch of copper on it. But the problem is that when people have done copper rings on yo-yos in the past or done copper throws, I think for the most part, they either are doing a coating on top of it so your hands don't smell, or in the case of the Radical Seas Oracle, one of the coolest yo-yos ever made, and please, if you have a Navy Radical Seas Oracle with the original engraving as well as copper rings, please hit me up because I will pay obscene amounts of money for it. They make the rings inner ring, so it doesn't touch your hands as much. And the problem here with the Copper from Kieran Cooper is that it kind of has more inner of a ring than an outer ring, but the ring does extend to the edge and go over the edge. And so your hands are making a non-negligible amount of contact with the copper, and therefore your hands just smell like you're handling pennies all day.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Not a fan of that.
Yeah, and it also, I think, just like physically feels gross. Like after a while, handling the yo-yo and then playing with it and then touching the string afterwards feels bad. It feels like you didn't wash your hands before you threw. And I knew that is something that you're a huge advocate for, by the way. If you're like a new thrower, buy Magic Yo-Yo V12, buy acetone, learn how to maintenance your bearing, and replace your string for the love of God. And then also JD's tip on top of that is wash your hands.
Yeah, that's a pro tip right there. Wash your hands.
But yeah, with the Empathy Copper, I just don't know what it is, but it does kind of feel bad to play with, which sucks because it is a gorgeous throw. And I think another thing that kind of makes it feel bad to play with on more than just that visceral level of handling copper all the time is that as much as I think it has like a balanced play field, I love the trend of wider wider widths and then smaller diameters. This yo-yo just has a weird thing where it seems to twist a lot, not gyro flop, but rather twist. If you were to like look on top of a yo-yo after you land on a trapeze, it kind of twists either clockwise or counterclockwise on especially dense tech where you're sometimes hitting strings at weird angles. It doesn't feel super stable, which is weird because it is essentially stable. It doesn't flop side to side all that much, and it can hold its own and has a lot of power and pushes itself through combos. But there's just certain things where you hit it wrong and it doesn't die on you, but you're binding at a weird angle. You're like stepping around the yo-yo to try to get back into your plane. And it therefore feels a little bit finicky. And the last drawback to stack on top of the copper feeling, on top of the twisting, is that it has a 4.4 millimeter gap. And I try to use the same string on every single yo-yo because I don't cut my string. I just use full length canopy rope, and that seems to work for me. But the problem with it is that with this slightly thicker string, and I don't even think this is the thickest string on the market or ever close to it, it is so freaking snaggy. It is the one yo-yo where I've been thinking I should buy different string to play with it. And this is after ripping out the response pads and putting some really cheap slippy Magic Yo-Yo response pads in it. It's still just grabs way too much for me, especially if you have multiple wraps or anything like that. I'm particularly wary about doing stuff within GTs, because if you land a typical front mounted GT, you're actually in a undermount, or rather you're in a brother trapeze where it's rotating in such a way that it would bind up. Playing within that and doing tech within that causes this yo-yo to snag more than almost any other throw that I have. And therefore it takes the copper from being a yo-yo I would love to sesh with, I would love to develop the patina on the rings just by handling it and playing with it a lot, to a yo-yo where I don't want my hands to smell, I don't want my hands to feel dirty, I need to be really locked in so that the yo-yo doesn't twist, and I also have to be super aware of how I am approaching a lot of my tricks so that it doesn't snag on me. And it makes me not really chill with this yo-yo at all. It feels very much like I have to be in a perfect mindset to throw it. And to me, that takes it out of a lot of the top tiers. And I would put it pretty firmly in C tier because of that experience. That is to say, it is still fundamentally a modern yo-yo. Great power, great stability, but there's something about it that's missing.
You could wear gloves.
I could wear gloves, yeah. I mean, the only thing I've ever thought about wearing gloves for is 5A, because that was obliterating my fingers. But we'll see. The problem is that I like to just yo-yo in public a lot of the time, and I'm not going to whip out the gloves to yo-yo in public.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. So you're saying this is the original string it came with and you haven't changed it?
No. So this is Canopy Rope, which is the Canopy Collection collab that is CLYW and Atmos projects.
Because this is a pretty thick string, I noticed.
Yeah, but the thing is that you say that, but this is just a trend. You, being a boomer, have not seen how thick strings gotten. This is like,
maybe not.
This is, I would say, thick, but not like actually that thick.
Yeah, if I was placing an order on Yo-Yo Experts, I would always just go kitty string. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. No, but that's the thing is, like, I think I might just go by kitty string specifically to play on this yo-yo and like a few others that I find to be a little bit snaggy.
That's the best string I've still found. I haven't found a brand I like to use more. I mean, that string's always felt the best, the kitty strings.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to see what happens. I know Owen's been trying to push Wicked Weaves, and I have a few samples that I got to play around with a little bit more. Too, yeah. Although I think those are still kitty based. So who's to say, right? But yeah, this is a yo-yo, the Empathy Copper.
That is a yo-yo.
That I think could just be a little bit better with like a revision. I would like to see a wider gap width, and I would like to see it have a little shift. I mean, heck, make it tri-material, actually. In the same way that like the Miracle is brass rings under plastic, I think you could do a similar thing with this throw, because there's so much I want to love about it. It has a dome hub, and I love yo-yo recreation throws, so that dome hub really speaks to me. And I like just how simple it is. The like slight engraved cut along the copper rim being the only real feature that is at all a design motif speaks to me, because I think overall it's just perfectly proportioned otherwise, with the curving up to the rims being about the same as the straight cut that we get to the response bump. That's all fantastic. It's just, I wish it was slightly better, because like I said before, I'm also looking for something in my heart to replace a Radical C's Oracle. And I mean, honestly, if you have the money, it might still be worth it if you're as much of a copper, not a yo-yo copper, but a copper fan as I am, just to have as eye candy the gunmetal gray version of the copper, as well as the Zach Gormley edition. Both are polished, and those are some of the prettiest throws I've ever seen.
Yeah, as I hold it in my hand and look at it, it is visually, it's a really nice yo-yo to look at. I agree with you. It does suffer from some performance issues. Overall, I like the way it feels, though. I mean, to throw. Plus, we have such different styles, you and I, too. So I think maybe for the kind of tricks that I do, I think maybe it's a little, more catered to like the styles I play with than yours. So that's probably why maybe I like to play with it a little more. But I do agree, it is kind of, I did notice a little bit of that kind of off balance, that kind of tilt you were mentioning, a little bit of that. But yeah, I mean, I like the width, I like the diameter of it. It's just that copper smell. For some reason, it just bugs me to get it on my hands. I don't know why.
Definitely a lot of stuff to love, and a lot of stuff to love with hanging out with you, JD. But I think our time is about coming to an end here for this session of rejection therapy. But appreciate you coming along for this one. Is there a place that we could find you online?
Actually, there is now.
Oh.
Yeah, you can email me. You can email me at yoyopyramidscheme@gmail.com. All one word.
How long are we going to keep this bit up about yo-yo pyramid schemes?
That's not a bit. That's a real email address. Email me your questions. Email me. You know what? Email me your top 5 favorite yo-yo freestyles from the years 2010 onwards, because I really don't know of any. Or I mean, I know of it. I've seen a few. I've seen some of the iconic ones. I've seen Jensen Kimmett win worlds, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the best freestyles of all time. But a lot of those years between, like I said, 2010 and now 2026, like I really wasn't watching freestyles. So I'm curious what's out there. Email me your questions. Email me your comments. Email me your favorite freestyles. Email me a picture of your grandma.
He loves his grandmas over there. You can find me on Twitter at CA Commentates. I am mostly on there getting baited into really bad political discussions, so just be warned about that. You can also find me in varying places online, including Reddit at Nyarko-san or Nyarko-casts. It really varies. You will probably find whichever one is talking about yo-yos and say, that's the one. But we will also hopefully in the future be getting some official socials out there for rejection therapy, as long as you guys actually enjoyed this experience and hopefully come back for more. I know I enjoyed talking about yo-yos with you, JD, and I hope that we all will be able to get together for another session here in the future.
It was great. Yeah, if you listen this far in the podcast, thanks to you guys. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, we love you.
It's a long time commitment.
All right. Well, for more commitments to the realm of yo-yoing, I would say definitely check out The Goods by Tyler Severance and Jake Bullock. That is one of the best podcasts about yo-yoing out there right now. Shout out to Kill Your Yo-Yos. There's still episodes up and available, I believe, on Spotify and a few other places. And just keep on plying your own style, developing your own things, and putting out to the world whatever you so desire about yo-yoing because, hey, you're a huge part of this community. Everybody's a huge part of this community. We'll see you guys soon.
All right. See you guys.